Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. You know, I rambled a little bit on today's podcast or yesterday's podcast, and I was thinking about this topic specifically. The Restrict Act, which is in Congress right now, and it needs to be something we all need to pay attention to, because in it, it's like the Patriot Act 2.0, and the Patriot Act was bad enough that it gave access to the federal government to monitor all communications, digital communications, and it was renewed because of, well, we're all afraid of terrorists. But what I've noticed about this one is it really gets into the nitty-gritty of, I guess, the left woke cult, in that if you are a red-blooded American, a patriot, anyone who believes in that, the American ideal, you can be branded as a terrorist, and then they get access to other things. Now, they branded this as a way to get rid of TikTok, and TikTok is, Chinese crap. And when I say TikTok's Chinese crap, I mean that they take your data, they hijack your... Anytime you use TikTok or you launch it or try to use it in any way, even those reels from Facebook that are from TikTok, what they do is it gives access to your browser, complete access to your browser, at the time of you using the application. And unless you are smart enough, tech smart enough, to make sure all your apps that you're using are closed after you've used them, you're giving them access to your most private data on your phone. Any text messages, any banking information, and this is all part of their terms of service, and that's what gets everybody. You see those stupid posts on Facebook where they say, do this before a certain time so that they don't have access to whatever. Fact of the matter is, any data you gave to Facebook or they get from you, you signed on when you said you were going to use the product. A good way to think about this is if it's a free service, you're the product. That's the best way to put it. So what does the Restrict Act do that is very worrying? Okay. First thing it does is VPNs. Let's talk about VPNs. So VPN is a virtual private network. It allows you to connect from your home or your device to something that's a safe space so that nothing can get in between your traffic. And the idea here is, since it's a secure tunneled connection for your internet traffic from whatever device, that it'll break itself, meaning they'll break the connection to try to hack it. Now, there are two ways you can get around this. One of them is at the carrier level, where they intercept all the keys from point A to point B so that the VPN's useless and they're just going to read your traffic anyway. That's one. Two is you go to some website to use this thing and it's already been hacked, and they sniff your traffic as you're building that VPN connection. So what this does is the VPN connection obfuscates where a user is, and it to some extent obfuscates what they're doing on the internet. Now, I think it's a great thing. Businesses use it to make you, from your home network, to get to their work network and get to resources. That's what it was originally designed for. Now, when they say that if you're using a VPN, they're basically saying that it's illegal to some extent. Now, it's a very basic, generic level of security that you can have, and it works okay from the IT perspective. So that's one problem, is they make it illegal or they put you on a watch list for it. The next thing they do is they're monitoring all social media traffic, like they would with the Patriot Act, but on steroids, including messages, instant messages or direct messages, anything that would be considered private normally. It gives the government direct access to this. They use keywords in searching the messages and all your content. And if you haven't been paying attention lately, the FBI added words like blue pill, red pill, Chad. These things that they've added as flag words for what they consider alternative right-wing media or alternative right-wing views, meaning terrorism. Now, I'm of the volition that any power we give to the federal government is a bad thing, because we keep giving more power to them and they never return it back. And with that, that gives them carte blanche to do bad things. And we're already in a espionage age where the government can look at your stuff at any given time. If you're on any kind of watch list, they're already watching you to some extent, or they have some bot that's watching your traffic as it's going through all of its stuff. There's that saying, people in glass houses don't throw stones, or, if you have nothing to hide, don't worry. That's true to some extent, but there's also this other point we need to talk about with the government, that at any given time, if they change the definition of a terrorist, say the Cookie Bakers 101 down the street, become some sort of enemy of the state because they spoke out or did something that was anti-government, they could be branded as a terrorist organization. And they can do this now with fiat without having it go to any other board, going to any other judge. They can go to you or go to the carriers, and they can get all your internet traffic, all your stuff, whatever it is, and look and decide for themselves, judge, jury, all in one fine little packet, to see if you're a subversive. Now, this goes deeper, because now they start looking at other applications, and rather than going to the individual businesses and have to supply a warrant and then do all this other stuff, even though a lot of these other businesses like Facebook, like Twitter in the past didn't require that, they would just willingly give them this stuff because they're a private corporation, and there's that private partnership, the partnership between the government and the state that exists that shouldn't in a pure capitalist environment. But in crony capitalism, they have this partnership that allows them to get money from the state for complying with these types of requests without having to go to court. Now, you could randomly say something like, "Man, that dude's such a dick, he needs to go away." And they could interpret that as a means that you just threatened so-and-so. We're looking at a state of being in the government that they're looking at making precognizant crime stuff. They're looking for thought crimes, basically, but they're looking for crimes before they actually could ever happen. And in a free state, that's not supposed to be the case unless there's a warrant where you get your day in court. And what this does is it lumps normal American citizens in with terrorists, or being labeled a terrorist in the future. And that means that you are not allowed your rights as a civilian. Because they brand you as a terrorist, you become an enemy combatant. That's why people get stuck in Gitmo forever. That's why those people on January 6th were gone after so hard, and why a lot of them haven't been able to get their day in court, is because they're holding them on terrorist charges. And to hold someone on terrorism charges means that that person is no longer an American citizen, even though they are, but that they are an enemy combatant. And as an enemy combatant, they have a different rule set that allows them to do whatever they need to suppress you, arrest you, or execute you. And that's just simple fact. You can say that didn't happen, or that doesn't happen, and then you can take a look at something called that Obama did, where he killed Anwar al-Awlaki's son, or I think it may even have been his name, Anwar al-Awlaki, who was a 16-year-old at a cafe. They sent a drone strike in. We're getting very close to that level of care and concern for American citizens in our own country. The big problem with a drone strike in the United States would be the collateral damage it would cause, and it would be a radical shock to most people. But it wouldn't shock me. I mean, Iraq Veteran 8888 just ran a poll to see if the American soldier or American serviceman would fire on American citizens. And he was a little bit shocked that 72% of the people, the respondents, said absolutely. And I'm of the volition that absolutely they would, because historically they have. You look at Waco, those were soldiers that were driving the tanks, like he said, but there were soldiers on the ground there. If you look at Kent State, if you go back even so far as Wounded Knee, if you think about these things, this is the violence that the government has a monopoly on. And the only reason why that monopoly isn't 100% set is because of the American gun owner. Is because we have a say still that says, we don't agree with you, and we can make this costly. We don't ever want to go there, and that would be a bad plan, but that keeps the government in check, and that's how it was always designed to be. That Second Amendment was there to keep our government in check. But as we've seen, there is one faction in the government right now. I can say there's one faction that has aides from the other side, because they will find a way to coalesce and remove your rights. And they're winning on a lot of fronts on the hearts and minds because of that lack of intestinal fortitude the other side, our side, the side we're probably lumped into, has. We're seeing a little more flex with the Bud Light stuff. I mentioned that this morning when I was talking about the podcast, or when I talked about it last night on the podcast. But what it was with this is that this has caused enough outrage that people are willing to go ahead and fight for it. And maybe, just maybe, that same group will look at the Restrict Act and say, hey, this is probably something we shouldn't do. Again, giving something this powerful to them from the IT perspective is the stupidest thing any American could ever sign on to do. And the person that actually drafted the bill in Congress probably is not an American patriot, because the way they've drafted this is such a stupid way. And I could see this being passed, because there's a lot of people that look at things and only look at the very surface level. And with this, since conservatives have been very honest about their distaste for TikTok, and they want it to go away because it's Chinese, their hate for that could pass this bill. Because the way this bill is billed right now is it's a ban TikTok bill. But the Restrict Act goes way deeper than just TikTok. TikTok absolutely probably shouldn't be allowed in the United States. I think there's a lot of manipulation that the Chinese have done to TikTok on our side, because the TikTok in the United States isn't the same that you would see in other countries, specifically in China. Ours has a lot of culture war issues to help fan those flames, where the Chinese is more wholesome and more centered around education and doing the right things, and the things that are more civically minded, rather than stirring the pot to cause the fights that we're seeing. And that, I think, absolutely should go away. But this is not the way. And unlike a few people, I know my audience enough to know that they're informed enough that they'll look this up themselves, and they'll see what the Restrict Act does. Or maybe they've heard it in passing, but they had no idea what it actually does. This is a steroid-injected bill that makes the Patriot Act look like a cherry bomb when it comes to IT technology and all those things you do in the digital space. You're basically opening up the hood to let them get at whatever they want, whenever they want, at any time they want, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Because if they get that passed, that means they're going to do this at the carrier level. So this is like the internet service provider level. That means that they're going to see the packets, the individual packets, going through at any time from your device, through your internet devices or your network, through their network in clear text. And there's nothing you can do about it. Now, they have that to some degree right now, but right now they have to apply a warrant to an American citizen. This removes that option because it gives the government carte blanche to look at whatever, whenever, at any time. So please take a look at this. Please contact your congressmen, your senators. This may be one of those times that the leftist politicians that we normally have, may take a step back and go, oh, wait a minute, that's a little extreme even by my take. Because there's a lot of hate in the United States for the Patriot Act. And a lot of us were duped into thinking that that would be a great thing to stop terrorists and that they would never turn it on the American citizen, just to find out that's exactly what they did. So my recommendation is never give them an inch because they'll take a mile. And when I say them, I mean the government. Like, share, subscribe, be great.